what are
Yeah.
your plans for the off season and possibly playing or just doing individual workouts?
Yeah, I mean, probably take a little bit of a break here, just for maybe a week. I don't really want to lose a ton of the stuff I've worked on, and just trying to get my body back to full health.
What happens when the most famous athlete in an entire sport realizes she holds all the cards and decides to stop playing nice? The basketball world is holding its breath because a massive storm is brewing behind the scenes, one that threatens to completely upend the established order of women's sports. For months, fans watched as a generational talent endured a rookie season packed with intense scrutiny, questionable officiating, and downright bizarre behavior from league veterans. She took the hits, smiled for the cameras, and answered every hostile press conference question with unbelievable grace, making it seem like she was perfectly fine being the sacrificial lamb for the league's growth. But behind closed doors, a very different narrative is taking shape, and it's far more ruthless than anyone anticipated. The current labor agreement governing the league is officially ticking toward its expiration date, and the 2026 season looms on the horizon like a time bomb waiting to detonate. Executives who thought they could easily control their new golden goose are suddenly waking up to a terrifying reality. The phenomenon who single-handedly injected millions of eyeballs and billions of dollars into a struggling business model is allegedly putting her foot down. Rumors are swirling that she and her trusted inner circle have drafted a list of absolute, non-negotiable conditions for her to even consider stepping onto the hardwood when the new contract year arrives. This isn't about asking for a few extra dollars or a slightly bigger locker room. It's about a complete dismantling of the old, broken system that has held the game back for decades. And what her camp is reportedly demanding next could change the landscape of professional athletics forever, leaving the old guard scrambling for answers. The truth is, the league's current financial structure is practically an insult to the sheer volume of value being generated. And the 2026 season is the exact moment everything can be ripped up and rewritten from scratch. Recently, the players' union officially opted out of the collective bargaining agreement, meaning the entire financial playbook gets thrown out the window after next year, creating a massive power vacuum. For a player pulling in sold-out crowds in every city, shattering television rating records night after night, and moving more merchandise than entire historic franchises combined, operating on a base salary of around $76,000 is nothing short of laughable. While she quietly secured an endorsement portfolio worth tens of millions of dollars from global brands like Nike and Gatorade, the league aggressively cashed in on her name while paying her pennies on the dollar. But the days of quietly accepting the status quo are over. Speculation is rampant that a strict condition for her continued participation is a complete overhaul of the revenue-sharing model, moving away from archaic systems of the past. The league recently secured a massive media rights deal worth over $2 billion involving major streaming giants and network television. And everyone knows that astronomical number is directly tied to her unprecedented drawing power. Whispers across the sports industry suggest her team expects a true 50-50 split of all league revenue, mirroring the highly lucrative models seen in the NBA and other major men's leagues. She knows exactly what her true worth is, and the mandate being pushed behind the scenes is crystal clear. Either the players finally receive a substantial share of the billion-dollar pie she helped bake, or the league risks losing its main attraction entirely. But the money, as staggering as it is, represents only a fraction of the real issue simmering beneath the surface. Anyone who watched last season saw a disturbing, undeniable pattern of hyper-physical, borderline dangerous targeting that went largely unpunished by the officials tasked with protecting players. Night after night, she was shoved, elbowed away from the ball, and deliberately targeted by veterans who clearly harbored deep resentment toward her sudden, explosive rise to global superstardom. It wasn't just tough basketball. It felt personal. At times, it bordered on a deliberate attempt to inflict career-altering damage before her professional journey had truly begun. One particularly infamous blindside hit early in the season sent shockwaves through the sports world, leaving millions of fans and high-profile analysts demanding the league office step in to protect its premier financial asset. Instead of swift action, the official response was muted, with executives seemingly terrified of offending an older generation of players who believed they owned the court. Now, well-placed insiders hint that one of her most rigid conditions for 2026 involves a complete top-to-bottom overhaul of how games are officiated and how malicious on-court behavior is penalized. There are intense rumors of zero-tolerance enforcement for flagrant fouls, massive financial fines for targeted headhunting, and a total cultural shift in player safety protocols. She isn't asking for a softer game or special treatment, but she is allegedly demanding an end to the sanctioned bullying that masqueraded as competitive spirit for an entire summer. If the league wants to keep marketing her face to millions of young, impressionable fans around the globe, it must ensure she isn't walking out of arenas covered in bruises while referees look the other way to appease angry veterans. And the dangers she faced weren't confined to the painted lines of the court. The league's amateur-level travel and security logistics were fully exposed during her highly publicized rookie campaign, and a repeat performance is reportedly off the table. Early in the season, alarming footage surfaced across social media showing her and her unsuspecting teammates aggressively mobbed by unpredictable, screaming crowds inside public airport terminals. The terrifying lack of professional, organized security details exposed a glaring flaw in how the league handled its sudden, explosive rise in fame. While the organization scrambled to roll out a chaotic, piecemeal charter flight program midway through the season to save face, it was widely viewed as a reactive band-aid, not a permanent, well-structured solution. The murmurs leaking from her tightly guarded inner circle suggest that for the 2026 season, guaranteed top-tier private travel and elite, armed security are absolute prerequisites just to get her on the plane. That means no more commercial flights under any circumstances. No more walking through public baggage claims surrounded by strangers with cell phones. No more half measures when it comes to player safety. Her presence alone can turn any quiet building into a massive, unpredictable security risk. And she refuses to put herself or her teammates in harm's way simply because executives want to cut logistical costs and save a few dollars. The expectation being laid out is clear. The league must begin operating with the same logistical professionalism and financial commitment as the highest-grossing sports organizations in the world. If they truly cannot afford to protect their star players properly, then they have no business presenting themselves as a premier global league. And if the suits in the front office believe they can call her bluff and force compliance, they are ignoring a massive, lucrative threat sitting right in their blind spot. She holds the ultimate trump card in these negotiations because, frankly, she does not need this specific league to maintain her fame, cultural relevance, or financial empire. An entirely new, heavily funded landscape of alternative basketball leagues is quietly rising in the background, built specifically to attract star players exhausted by restrictive traditional systems. A newly formed 3-on-3 league, backed by billionaire investors and former players, is already making aggressive moves, reportedly offering enormous contracts to elite talent. The promises allegedly include exceptionally high pay for a short season, massive media exposure, and most importantly, ownership equity in the company itself, something the traditional league has flatly refused to provide. Beyond that domestic threat, international clubs with deep, virtually bottomless pockets are always waiting overseas, ready to offer millions in tax-advantaged contracts for a single season of play. The reality keeping executives awake at night is simple. She could walk away in 2026, join an independent barnstorming tour, or sign with a rival startup league, and her millions of loyal fans would follow without hesitation. The television networks paying billions for broadcast rights are not investing to watch a logo bounce across the screen. They are paying to watch her shoot from it. Her management team understands this leverage completely. by allowing the possibility of sitting out the 2026 season to circulate if her sweeping conditions are not met. She applies immense pressure on league leadership to concede. They know a season without their biggest draw would mean plummeting ratings, half-empty arenas, and furious network executives demanding answers. Yet despite this unprecedented level of player leverage, not everyone in the basketball ecosystem is ready to bow to the new power structure. A fierce, deeply entrenched pushback from the league's old guard is complicating these delicate negotiations, creating a fractured and tense atmosphere behind the scenes. For years, veteran players labored in relative obscurity, earning modest salaries and building the league brick by brick with little recognition. Now, a 22-year-old superstar is positioned to dictate the financial and structural future of their workplace. The resentment is palpable. Many battle-tested veterans feel marginalized by the narrative suggesting she alone is responsible for the current financial surge. That perception has created friction in locker rooms and during closed-door union discussions. Credible whispers indicate that influential voices within the Players' Association are resisting her rumored high-level demands, viewing them as overly aggressive or moving too quickly for the league's stability. The old guard reportedly wants the upcoming collective bargaining negotiations to focus on broad equity, incremental raises that lift the lowest-paid players. Meanwhile, her camp is believed to be pushing for sweeping structural reforms that significantly reward the superstars who drive revenue growth. This brewing internal divide places league executives in an impossible position as the clock ticks down. If they immediately reshape the league to satisfy her demands, they risk igniting backlash from seasoned veterans who still wield institutional influence and media relationship. But if they align with the conservative approach and delay modernization of the league's financial and operational systems, they risk alienating the one player capable of sustaining national attention, sponsorship growth, and television dominance. Either way, the countdown to 2026 is no longer quiet. It is a terrifying high-wire act of fragile egos, unimaginable money, and raw power. And the mounting tension is threatening to rip the entire organization apart before the new season even begins. Adding fuel to an already raging fire is the dramatic shift in organizational control that has taken place over the last few months, completely altering the power dynamic within her franchise. Just weeks after she carried her team to its first playoff appearance in years, shattering offensive records along the way, the front office abruptly fired the head coach, sending shockwaves through the coaching community. It immediately became clear to anyone paying attention that this wasn't just about X's and O's or defensive rotations. It was a calculated power move. The sudden dismissal felt less like a basketball decision and more like a strategic reset designed to align the franchise fully with its superstar centerpiece. The message was unmistakable. The future of this organization would be built around her timeline, her development, and her vision for how the game should be played. The swift hiring of a new head coach only reinforced that perception. This wasn't a long, drawn-out search. It was decisive, intentional, almost urgent, and whether publicly acknowledged or not, the assumption around the league was clear. Ownership wanted someone she believed in, someone she trusted, someone who could maximize her strengths instead of trying to contain them. That kind of influence for a player so early in her career is almost unheard of. Veterans across the league noticed. Executives noticed. Agents noticed. Because when a franchise reshapes its leadership structure immediately after a historic rookie season, it signals more than optimism. It signals commitment and leverage. Now the balance of power inside the building looks very different than it did a year ago. The coaching staff is aligned. The roster is being evaluated through her lens. The system is evolving to fit her skill set. And the front office has made it clear they are willing to make uncomfortable, headline-grabbing decisions to secure long-term stability around their generational asset. But that shift only intensifies the broader league-wide standoff. Because if one franchise is already operating as though she holds franchise-level authority, What happens when that authority expands to league-wide negotiations? What happens when the most marketable player in the sport not only influences a coaching hire, but the financial architecture of the entire organization? That's the question echoing in executive offices across the country. This is no longer just about talent. It's about control. And the closer 2026 gets, the more obvious it becomes. The real battle isn't being fought on the court. It's being fought in boardrooms. But here's where the situation becomes even more volatile. Because this isn't just a negotiation about contracts, travel, or officiating anymore. It's a referendum on who truly controls the future of the sport. For decades, the power structure was simple. Ownership made the rules, veterans enforced the culture, and rookies quietly fell in line. That hierarchy is now cracking in real time. Her rise didn't just bring ratings and revenue. It shifted perception. Sponsors orbit her. Networks promote her. Young fans identify with her. That kind of gravitational pull changes how leverage works. When one player becomes the economic engine of an entire ecosystem, the traditional chain of command starts to look outdated. And make no mistake, younger players across the league are watching closely. They see what's happening. They understand that if she succeeds in forcing structural reform, it won't just benefit her. It resets the ceiling for the next generation. That silent support from emerging stars adds another layer of pressure behind the scenes. Meanwhile, ownership groups are running projections. What does a true revenue split look like long-term? What happens if media partners renegotiate underperformance clauses? What if sponsors tie bonuses specifically to her availability? These are no longer hypothetical questions. They are active boardroom discussions. Because the risk isn't just losing a player. The risk is losing momentum. And momentum is the most valuable currency the league has right now. The terrifying truth is that both sides need each other, but only one side appears fully prepared to walk away. That imbalance is what makes this standoff so dangerous. If compromise doesn't come quickly, the countdown to 2026 could trigger a confrontation that reshapes not just one league, but the entire business model of modern professional women's sports. And everyone involved knows it.